What's going on, everybody? JT here. We've got Crypto for Change. Unfortunately, C-Will couldn't be with us, and as many of you know, this episode was supposed to be with Anthony Scaramucci. We are working on getting that one rescheduled. But what's going on? Appreciate everyone joining us anyway. This is episode 79 of the Next Block. Can't believe it's been 79 episodes. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit us up in the comments. Let us know who we should have on next time. Actually, I believe next time we have Jerry Chu coming on. Is that our next show, or do we have a couple shows between that?
It might actually be On Ramp. I can't remember if it was him or if it's Lofty. Let me double check.
Lofty is the 2nd of November. So we've got Lofty AI coming on the November 2nd.
Yeah, it's No Ramp on the 26th.
Awesome. A show in between that as well. We've got a couple great guests coming up. We're going to try to get Mooch back on. But what's going on? There's been a lot of things happening in the market anyway. We saw Bitcoin run up to about $30,000 on what seems to be fake news about a Bitcoin ETF approval, or at least news that's not truly confirmed yet. So there was a retracement, although it's still holding strong. Algorand, on the other hand, not so much. Algorand is below 9 cents the last time I checked. Not looking so great. There's only, it's basically at its all-time lows. So if it goes too much further past that, there's not that much support below it, but
there's a few people I follow that are seeming to say that, obviously if Algorand loses the 8 cents, or it loses the support it's at right now, we're most likely heading, you've charted it before, the bottom of that wedge would put us right around like 7 cents or in that area. It could be 5 cents. I mean, that would be the next mental number that I would probably put support at if we were to fall through something like 7 cents. But I don't know. It's so interesting too, because Bitcoin can rally on fake news of a ETF approved. And I honestly even said this back when I did the water cooler episode with Tony from Thinking Crypto. It's like, we have until really March, right, of next year with this Bitcoin ETF news. And I was saying I didn't suspect that we would get an ETF approved for Bitcoin this year, but I definitely believe that they will use that news to manipulate the price all the way through. Now, I don't know if this was like planned or if this is literally just somebody within Cointelegraph. I mean, I saw some videos and some stuff getting sent out saying that they were saying, well, it's not our fault that we said it wrong. It's your fault that you believed it. Like, I don't know. It's just interesting that that's where we're at in the market, where something fake like that could pump the price. But then again, I think it just comes back to the whole idea that that's what everybody's waiting on. Once it actually gets approved, it'll be interesting to see what the price of Bitcoin does. Maybe that is what could, send it parabolic, even in 2023, right? If we did somehow get a ETF approved and Bitcoin's price runs back to new all-time highs on that news, it would be interesting though to see what Algorand does. I know a lot of people, who watch our show here are, holding algo, and I don't know. It seems like when Bitcoin goes up, Algorand just stays flat or goes down. And then when Bitcoin's going flat, sometimes it seems like we get a little run up, but every single time, like you've shown in your technical analysis videos, every single time Algorand starts to try to get out of that descending wedge, it just gets rejected.
Right. Yeah. It just recently got rejected, almost picture perfect on the top of that wedge. But yeah, I mean, for those of us that have been around in the market long enough, know that, Algorand's definitely been hit harder than some of the other tokens, but it's not too uncommon that things don't go up with Bitcoin. Usually when Bitcoin's on its way up, at least in the beginning of the bull market, the rest of the market lags or is actually hurt because most of the money's flowing to Bitcoin. Once Bitcoin reaches, a good price, then that money starts flowing back into altcoins. So it wouldn't be too surprising to me to see altcoins like Algorand lag Bitcoin. But yeah, let's pull this up on the screen right here. This descending wedge that Algorand has been in has really just been in since 2021. And if we
ever since the Mooch, it's been in that wedge ever since the Mooch said, "Don't sell your algo." I think that's why he was afraid to come on. He didn't want to hear me say that.
I drew this wedge months and months and months ago, and it literally basically bounced perfectly on it back in the beginning of October and is trending down. And as I said earlier, we've got this line of support right here at about 0.88 cents. So, a little over 8 cents, under 9 cents. And then down here at just over 8 cents at 0.82. But you're absolutely right. Really, this wedge goes on for a while. It could just stay in this wedge until about the 5 cent range. It could definitely do that. I hope it doesn't, but that's certainly within the realm of possibility, and it's within the realm of its current trading pattern. I mean,
How much of this, negative price action? I saw Elder's tweet. I don't know if you follow him still, but he was kind of coming
absolutely.
out against the foundation, the ink. How much of this, continued, just getting rejected once it hits these things, do you think is still attributed to, token vesting and obviously the foundation and the ink having to sell algo to keep things afloat? And how much of it do you think is just like, I don't know, because I'll even say this: Render, right? Render is a token I've been holding as well. Like a couple months ago when it kind of fell, when a lot of things fell, it was sitting outside the top 70, 80 in total, and now it's past Algorand. It's continued. It's almost back up to $2. So it's not like things with momentum and projects can't continually move up even with Bitcoin in the midst of this bear market. And it seems like Algorand, even though with some of the big news with the Python and the buildable hackathon partnering with AWS and Circle, it seems like there's things that like you would honestly hope that would push it through and start to get some momentum, but it just seems like every single time it's just getting hammered down. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I mean, from a technical basis, you're right. I mean, from a purely or fundamental basis, however you want to say it, Algorand is amazing at this point, at least relative to where it was when it was like $2, $3 a token, and it is struggling against things like Render. But personally, I think Render's able to capture some of that hype and is able to lack some of the negativity that Algorand has created. So markets are based on perception, really, and really, as much as people say it's numbers driven, it's demand driven, it's mostly emotion driven, and there's a reason why market psychology is so important. And I personally think Algorand, unfortunately, has such a negative perception in the broader market that although a lot of those perceptions might not actually be true fundamentally today, they still exist, and Algorand's gonna have a harder time overcoming those negative perceptions than another environment that hasn't been perceived so negatively yet.
Yeah, and maybe that's even why I know a lot of people were wanting to question Anthony Scaramucci, and hopefully we do. We are trying, just so everybody's aware is watching now. We are looking to hopefully get him on next week still. So it's not like we're trying to push this one out super far, but he made that call that he could see, or on his last talk, I think it was with Altcoin
Altcoin
Daily.
daily. Yep.
Yeah, about 30 cents algo, right? And I think a lot of people saw that and were like, "Hold up, like
I mean,
30
I'll take it
cents."
from these levels, but
Right,
I
right.
think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty bearish on the outlook, especially when he was saying, Bitcoin, he could see it actually reaching the six figures, 100K. I think he said Ethereum like 4,500,
Hmm.
which all of those are about a 3x or so. So I guess if you're continuing with the 3x, that would put Algorand at 30 cents. But I would
Yeah.
assume altcoins would pop further than that. But I don't know. Maybe that's his logic. Maybe he just sees most things in or around a 3x, maybe 4x from here.
Yeah, I know a lot of people or some of the people I follow are still thinking that we could see another blow off top with Bitcoin. I don't, obviously altcoins, like I said, it just it has not seemed to trickle down. It's not, we're not in a bull market, right? We're still in a overall macro bear market. But equities obviously look like they could, the dollar looks like it's topped. Bonds looks like it's maybe bottomed. Obviously, you got Jay Powell right now speaking today, causing some, the market to go haywire. But hopefully, rates are being paused, and we're not going to be hiking anymore. Obviously, we're not looking to cut rates yet. But I think during that, pausing time and, with the dollar topping, we could see some form of rally. But, in my mind, it just seems like that rally is going to be mainly held for the safer assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe XRP, with all the, lawsuit stuff kind of going in their favor, and, some of the momentum they pulled from that win. And then obviously still some of that hinges on, Bitcoin ETF news and some of the regulatory stuff. But I just, for Algorand, it just seems like, I honestly could see Mooch's, 30 cents being like, that could be where we top out before, retracing again. And then maybe, down the road, making the move higher.
Yeah, I mean, certainly everything doesn't go straight up or down. So there'll be many points where we seem to top out or bottom out, and next week or the next month, that's not the case. So I mean, yeah, that in the short or long run, that could eventually be right. The unfortunate thing is there was no timeline on that. Was that the 30 cent mark prediction for the top of the bull market? Was it, what I mean? So that's the other thing. But when you look at, I do largely agree with most of what you said. But when you look at the dollar, it does obviously, right here, it's making a lower high, but it hasn't made a lower low on this short little micro trend here. But on a more macro level, it's still making higher lows and higher highs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I'm not convinced it's topped out yet. I mean, even if you zoom out a little bit more macro, it's it was making a lower high and a lower high here. It reached above that as well. So things don't necessarily scream that the dollar is topping out just yet. But overall, yeah, I do largely agree. If you look at the S&P 500 or even the Nasdaq, you would assume we're back in the bull market, but when you really dig deep, it's like the top 5 or 7 companies. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a truck going by. It's like the top 5 or 7 companies that are really bolstering the S&P 500 up or the Nasdaq up. Where if you look at the rest of it, if you really dig into the rest of those ETFs, most of those stocks are doing pretty horrifically. So I think you're largely right on that prediction that with crypto, once it does at least start to get some momentum again, it's going to start with the more safe cryptos. I mean, I think it'll eventually trickle down, but yeah, the ones that are deemed safe, Bitcoin, Ethereum, things of the like. I mean, maybe there'll be a handful of other ones as well, but those ones will definitely be where most of the money flows at first.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. It was interesting too. I don't know if you saw, but Aptos, yeah, we're used to talking about, I saw 409 Algo put the comment, but we're used to talking about Solana going down, but Aptos actually went down, and they actually made
Did it?
yeah, it went down for like 4 hours. But let me see if I can find, I know that Cooper Daniels did a tweet about it, but they were like almost like positive, like it was a positive thing, like because of them. Yeah. They said your energy for Aptos One was so electric, you cut the lights. What that means at the moment is that transactions on the network have been impacted. We're working diligently to resolve the issue, and we'll keep you updated upon completion. So obviously, I think it's back to operating normally, but they saw it as a positive thing. And honestly, I could get
Aptos suffered
why.
a 5-hour outage, coincidentally in the same week the network launched in 2022. So it, basically less than a year before it had an outage, or
Yeah,
has it had any other outages
I
between
don't think so.
now and then?
Mm-mm.
Like,
I think this
well,
is the only one,
that's
and
probably a
maybe
better rate than Solana, but obviously you don't want any at all, which is why we're
right.
here in Algorand.
Exactly. And it kind of still comes back to the whole idea of like all these new, layer one blockchains that are trying to be so fast, and you're using all this different technology, but it's like there's still something like Algorand that has been up since 2019, has not had any downtime, has actually stressed the network, right? They've done tests, communities done tests, as well as the Inc. and Foundation have done their own tests. It just, it begs the question of, you know,
This is that tweet you were talking about. Your
yeah, how
energy for Aptos One was so electric you cut the lights. Oh man, they're really trying to
it's like
rebrand
so many
that to a
things. It seems
positive.
like it seems like the space is so entirely still in just hype and beta and just beta testing and just push everything to the max, break it, and or honestly, Ethereum's whole model of move quick, break things, and fix them as you go, instead of trying to take, I would say, almost like Algorand's approach, which was just build a platform that could actually handle it and then continue to improve upon it and grow it.
It's saying it may be outage season, as Aptos is not the only chain to go down recently. On October 19th, the Theta Network team stated a recent node upgrade created an edge case bug that caused, whatever that means, caused blocks on the main chain to stop producing for several hours, as well as in September, Coinbase Layer 2
Hmm.
network Base suffered its first major outage since the launch in the previous month. Wow, they only went 1 month. Wow. So yeah, I guess it is outage season unless you are over at Algorand. That's the thing. There's so much hype in these tokens. I don't know, something needs to change with the branding, the messaging, the marketing, because the tech is there. There's a lot of upgrades that are fantastic. There are a lot of reasons developers should come and build. Unfortunately, I do not think the messaging and branding is working.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. And the cool thing, Sheck was saying, edge case bug means that the things that never going to happen happened. Very true.
Yeah.
Um, and but there are still good things, right, going on in Algorand. Obviously, we just had governance period 9 close up. And as for all you governors that are out there, I think the APR is pretty decent. It's like somewhere between like 10 to 20. Well, depending upon, I guess, where you're staked. I know that Messina, or I know Folks Finance is like, let me go see what theirs is currently. want to say it ended up around like 10%.
I'm not sure. What's that borrow APY at though? That's what I'm really curious
Yeah,
about.
that was interesting to see. APR right now looks like 18%, maybe is what it was.
Let's see. So
Yeah,
according to
18.13.
Algorand stats.com, the DeFi governance is about 15.38. So if there's a little bit extra, I'd assume that's maybe like a DeFi boost that's coming from the platform itself. But that's not too bad. 2.75 for governance, 15 for DeFi governance. I mean, of course, that's the way to go.
And Messina 1 is still projected right now at 23.8. I know that there was an issue with the Algorand Foundation's API that was sending all the data out, so that did change a little bit over this past weekend, I think, but still 23.8. That's where I've got my algos, sitting on and earning some decent yield, especially if we are going to see prices go down a little bit more. Might as well earn some of that passive yield for holding your algo. Yes.
Yeah, not bad.
And the last time I checked, it was at like 278, or when we did that giveaway, it was at 278 stakers. So 380 almost stakers for Messina 1. That's pretty good for the first period. And then you also have a lot of things like Folks Finance, or, bringing over and starting to bridge using, a lot of these other wrapped tokens like AVAX, Solana. They just added Chainlink for deposits. I don't know, the supply or supplying APY is 0. So obviously not much yield there to earn on your Chainlink, but for Wrapped Sol, 3.5, AVAX 1.9. So it is cool to, you're still seeing the solid projects, I would say, in Algorand continue to build. There are new ones like Messina, Goracle, or Gore Network, that are continuing to create and build things for Algorand. And then obviously we still have yet to see what's going to come out of this Algorand buildable hackathon. I'm really hoping we get some cool things out of it that could actually make Algorand kind of pop in the eyes of, I would say some of these bigger liquidity providers.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm looking at Folks Finance now, and this borrow APY is still outrageous. Almost 60% variable, 58%, almost 62% for the stable APY.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
it was
wild. The only good thing is, I mean, if you go over here, you could get a good APY for putting up some as collateral. But wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it took definitely a little bit longer, I think, this time around to stabilize that or bring that borrow down, and that's what ended up. I think some people have actually already got liquidated. So make sure if you're over there and you're using Folks Finance G Algo and you've leveraged yourself, 4, 5, 6 times, however much you can, be sure to
Mind your
watch that.
collateral. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Leverage is a risky thing.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, that'll definitely even itself out over time. I mean, the people will supply algo, the APY will go down on both ends. I mean, and then it won't be as enticing to lend or borrow. It's one of those things that while the market is still so small, I guess, for DeFi in Algorand, the liquidity is so low. I mean, once Algorand gets to a point where a couple of these lending platforms just have so much liquidity in terms of Algorand, I mean, at that point, the rates won't go as high. It's just that there's not the amount of demand for what's borrowed versus what's deposited on the platform is just way out of whack every 3 months in the governance period now.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so what should we look at next? What do we got? What do we want to look at next?
Well, Algorand NFTs still down, but there
Still,
has been. Yeah, we're still on the right side. I was looking at StockTwits NFTs this morning. We are still on the right side of that 24-hour NFT volume, but we did pass Injective a little bit. So we're not the very bottom with VeChain like we were the last time when we had actually the NFT project Mad V Apes on. So moving up a little bit. I think it's just, this part of the market, I feel like is one of the hardest ones to be in for if you're in NFTs, if you're just in holding cryptos, if you're in, trying to find those meme coins or things that are going to pop. It's just everything is like just slowly crawling sideways until the bull market comes back. Like there's not much there's not many exciting things happening right now in this space. I mean, right now, the most exciting thing happening is, and at least from what I can tell, is most everybody's talking about, the SBF trial, right? Sam Bankman-Fried, is he going to, what kind of time is he going to get? What are your thoughts there? You muted yourself too.
Appreciate that heads up. I do believe he's going to get a lenient sentencing. I don't think it'll be as harsh as he should get. I actually think what Anthony Scaramucci said on Altcoin Daily was largely correct. I mean, he committed a fraud, but he does believe that at least likely the jury will go slightly easy on him because he's young and all these other reasons that we might not agree with. But I do think largely will play out in the long run.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm just looking at this right now. If we want to add a little bit of breaking news to the discussion, but right here, as of 20 minutes ago, we've got BBC reporting that top crypto firms named in a $1 billion fraud lawsuit. Right here, of course, we've got the Winklevoss twins pictured above. And the story goes on to say U.S. prosecutors have accused 3 high profile cryptocurrency firms of defrauding investors of more than $1 billion. So the New York Attorney General, something James, said Gemini, a crypto exchange, had lied to customers about the risks of an investment account it offered, which paid high interest rates on crypto. So they're coming after staking platforms, it seems, that are offering high interest, but the centralized ones for now. Goes on saying Genesis, a crypto lender, and its parent company, Digital Currency Group, we've heard those names before in some of these crypto issues, were also involved in the program. It was halted last November, cutting off customer access to funds. Genesis filed for bankruptcy a few months later. We all know this story. Attorney General James said the case concerned another example of bad actors causing harm throughout the under-regulated cryptocurrency industry. That could be contested, the under-regulated part of it, but that's all right. Digital Currency Group, DCG, and Gemini each said they would fight the claims. Quote, honesty and integrity have always been my guiding principles, said DCG founder Barry Silbert, calling the allegations, quote, baseless, and the legal action is the latest to emerge from the implosions in the crypto industry last year that we're all feeling the brunt of still as the market for digital currencies soured. The 3 companies had worked together on Gemini Earn. We already know this part of the story, but this is a pretty big lawsuit. Alleging fraud of in excess of $1 billion is no small joke. In the lawsuit, prosecutors said Gemini was aware that Genesis had shaky financials from the start of the program. That's a heavy allegation right there. But the lawsuit said Gemini failed to alert customers about the risks of lending to the company, instead claiming that it had been subject to vetting. Blah blah blah. We know most of this story, but yeah, that's what do you think about this?
it's crypto, right? I
Yeah,
feel like
that's fair.
I feel like we haven't been able to trust. It's so funny too. Like, and all these centralized entities, right, that we use. I literally have only used Coinbase primarily. I mean, I have dabbled with some other exchanges and on ramping to see which one has better fees and stuff like that. But ultimately, I've come back just to always using Coinbase. But because there's no regulation, because they didn't have a lot of these things built in, like you would say, your traditional finance things, to side with Gary Gensler, right? These exchanges can commingle funds. They can do a lot of these shady things, and hopefully, I think what everybody would like to see coming out of 2023 and into 2024 in the future is there is some regulation. There is a framework that these companies have to build on, with not commingling funds, not obviously not trading against users, as tokens get launched and things like that, and trying to drive people into a buy the listing so that we can dump on you and stuff like that. I think it's just, the space is full of people trying to take advantage, and that's where you really gotta pay attention to who you listen to, because even the ones who, like I was gonna say before you pulled that up, it's like, there's all these experts, with these exchanges who put out their price targets, who put out all this news on that may be bullish, bearish for whatever it is. And at the end of the day, they can still be wrong. Like, I even with the guests we were about to have on, I met Anthony Scaramucci for the first time at Decipher in Miami. It's actually the first spot I met you at. And, I remember him being so bullish on Algorand at the time. And so was Michael Arrington. And there were tons of other big VCs and so many people who were very bullish on Algorand, saying, crazy things. And it's tweeting out, "Don't sell algo," right? And look where it's come ever since. And so, and you even have other nightmare people who are pumping Luna, right? Terra Luna, people who were pumping FTX. I mean, literally, people saying there's no, Mr. Wonderful, saying there is no like videos on TV, not just on like YouTube, but like on TV, saying that there's no safer place I would put my money than FTX. I mean, that's
Yeah, but there's a difference in, at least in that particular example, there's a difference between getting it wrong and being paid to say certain things. I mean, it's
that's
come out
true.
that he's been paid probably millions of dollars at this point, allegedly. I think I don't know exactly the number. Don't sue me, Mr. Wonderful, but that wouldn't be too wonderful. But yeah, people get paid to say certain things, so it's hard to really judge what's people just getting it wrong versus people kind of paid to get it wrong. But to your point, at least with the Mooch, we would have loved to talk about this, but he had basically sold 30% of Skybridge with a option to basically buy up to 70% of it over the course of 4 years to Sam
Yeah.
Bankman-Fried, and they're still struggling to get that back. They believe they're going to be able to buy that position back, but that's of course something right there that you got wrong. That's not like, and he admitted that on Altcoin Daily. That's certainly a mistake. That was his life work that unfortunately he sold off to somebody that wasn't, or at least a portion of it that he sold off to somebody that didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And you're right, there'd be a lot of people, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much money you have, no matter how many wins you have under your belt, some people get things wrong.
Yeah. So let's, as obviously there's not tons of topics to discuss. I feel like happening in the space today, but where do you think we go from here? Right? Where does Algorand go from here? What are you projecting for the next? What are your thoughts on the next 3 to 6 months for market movement? What are your thoughts?
Market movement. What is it? What is it right now? We are in October, so 3 to 6 months. That would put us in
October.
that would put us January to April. April is roughly when the halving will be. Yeah, I don't know. I think between now and then it could be pretty choppy, pretty sideways. We could retest the new, local lows or all-time lows, really, which we're pretty much at currently, but would be closer to the 8 cent range than the 9 cent range. We could certainly retest that range between 8 cents and maybe 15 cents until even the end of the year, and maybe start to trend up in line with the halving. I mean, but I still largely think that we are due, whether it's this cycle or next cycle, for the halving not to have the effect it did have in all the previous cycles. And that's largely because I don't think it ever actually had the effect it did have. I just think it coincidentally pretty much lined up perfectly with when the Fed essentially was expanding and contracting the money supply. I think
Yeah.
that had a much greater effect than the halving. And even if you want to give that argument a little bit of grace and say it did have an effect because the supply of Bitcoin is being cut in half, that effect gets halved in and of itself each year, because obviously the smaller and smaller amount, if you go from 10 Bitcoin to 5 Bitcoin, that's a way different than going from 10,000 to 5,000. That's
Right.
obviously a much bigger difference there. So eventually the halving will have a much smaller effect on supply anyway. So I think we're due, whether it's, like I said, this period or next halving cycle. So we'll see about that. But Algorand, I'm still bullish on it long term, but the 3 to 6 month projection, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I would definitely say, if anything, right, I think Algorand could maybe, if it does break out of the wedge, right, it could see a pretty sharp rise back up to that 15 cents to maybe in the 20 cents range before, just trading sideways, depending upon market conditions. But I do agree with you as well that like if the if the halving is going to have any different effect, on the price of Bitcoin, I think this is going to be the halving that's going to have the best chance to see that change, because the macro conditions right now are literally not great for any asset. Like maybe you could say gold, and maybe you could say Bitcoin is the better gold, but I just don't think it's reached that level of I don't know, like maybe like I say, I feel like for it to reach that level and to truly be, to get there, these ETFs would have to get approved, the regulatory framework would have to get pushed through, and we would have to see a lot of bullish reasons for crypto adoption. I mean, it's
Which
just
largely
not
could
there.
happen, though. Especially the thing is the current landscape. I agree with everything I just said. But if you really look at it holistically, it goes back to market psychology and the perception. Even if the halving has a smaller and smaller effect on supply over time, if there's a big enough perception in enough market participants that it's going to have a big effect and people start buying because that's what they believe, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It works
Yeah.
the same way the other way around too. If enough people believe that things are going to tank and everyone starts selling, even if their reason for it was wrong, they created the recession because everyone sold. So market psychology is super important because we kind of create our own self-fulfilling prophecies in that essence. But Ludo Everyday Algonaut said right here, we've got market movement depends on if there is some buyer, of course, and if some VC will start to buy on the market, or or if Elon Musk finds Algorand, or if any BTC whale finds Algorand. And that's of course funny, but it's true as well. Market movement depends on if there is a buyer, but where are the buyers going to come from when we're in market conditions where rates are so high? The federal government is still contracting the money supply, or at least the Federal Reserve is. The government itself is trying to expand it, so they're kind of working at odds with each other. But if you look at the M2 money supply, the overall money supply is still going down.
Yeah.
Bitcoin and the overall crypto market has never gone up when the M2 money supply was going down. It has only gone up when the M2 money supply was going up as well. We had Mark Yusko on our show not too long ago, and he and I largely believe that the stars could kind of align here, where you have the halving happening, you have the Bitcoin ETFs getting approved, you have the Federal Reserve reducing rates and making access to borrowed money and funds easier and cheaper for people, and you'll have them hopefully expanding in this scenario, expanding the M2 money supply and have it going up again, which could create that bullish scenario where everything kind of aligns all at once, and that's the start of the next bull market. That's actually a large possibility, but until that liquidity comes back into the market, which really won't happen until rates are reduced and they expand the money supply again, we're going to be in choppy waters.
Very true. So looks like the thing we should be accumulating is more USDC, USDT in that dollar, because like we showed at the start of the show, it could still be pumping.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone stick around for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of people that have been here throughout the depths of the bear market over the last year. If you're still here, there's no point in leaving. Of course, that's my humble opinion. But we might keep this episode short today. Everyone, we appreciate it. Definitely let us know in this live chat who you want us to have on this podcast next. We're going to close out with a quick word from our sponsors. So, of course, we've got the great Exum Market. Exum Market is a fantastic NFT platform on Algorand. You can buy, trade, sell NFTs, do all sorts of things. Check out exa.market so you can learn more about that. Check out the video description down below for a link to Exum Market. And now a word from the rest of our sponsors. Right, we are back, and of course, Algorand governance period has closed. So Messina One, of course, you can't sign up to use their platform for governance in that essence, but you could purchase some MAlgo on the open exchange, on any of the decentralized exchange, if you're interested in still participating in governance that way, and a lot of fun things to do like Algorand Finance. You could come over here, check out the M Algo vaults here. We've got an M Algo bear vault right here that's projected APY currently at about 6.5%. Add a little bit of APY onto your DeFi experience. But yeah, I think we're going to probably wrap this up pretty soon. Check out algorand.finance. Check out the description down below for links to our sponsors, including non-fungible domains. Shout out to them. And shout out to all you in the audience that join us every single show. We're going to rebook Anthony Scaramucci. Join us next week for No Ramp. Join us the week after for Jerry Chu of Lofty AI. And yeah, hopefully we see you week after week.
Yep. And we also have I'm trying to lock down a really fun interview right after that I think everybody in that follows us will really enjoy. So be sure to smash this subscribe, share this, get more people to join the next block. And we'll see you guys hopefully next week with the Mooch.
Yeah, we'll leave it on that. We won't name drop who Crypto for Change is trying to get on the show. Leave that as a little bit of suspense. Ping that notification bell so you definitely get notified when we do go live with that Mooch interview. It won't likely be at our normal Thursday showtime, so keep your eyes peeled for that, and we'll see you around.
See you, everybody.